Welcome back, guys. I am going to be doing an episode of Voice of the Broken. I've not done one of these in a while. Today it will be just me. Deadeye is not going to be recording with me tonight because I didn't even give him a heads up that I was doing this. Peaches and I took a down day and I'm fucking bored out of my mind. So instead of reaching out, trying to get him to run to the studio and work all the logistics out, I decided to just come do this by myself. It's been a while since I've done one of these. So, and it's actually the first one that I've done since we've been here because of this, I think, in the studio or in the back of the house. But I've got a 23-page email here from one of our Patreon members, and this was sent in on July 4th, so it's been sitting for a hot minute. I haven't gotten to these emails because part of me hasn't wanted to do this. There's been a part of me that has been on the fence about whether or not I was even going to continue doing them. But in talking with Jay today on the phone, he asked that I continue to do these because he gets a lot of benefit from them. So we're going to run this. All right, I'm now finally a member of Patreon. During one of the times getting into one of the chats, Chris challenged me to write my story. It might be messy. Writing is hard for me, LOL, so here it is, my story. Man, where to start? I'll just tell you the main parts and the hard parts, I guess. My life has been a chaotic mess. Grew up in a 5-bedroom house with 15 people. Holy shit. There was a lot of bad shit that happened growing up there, not just for me, but for one of my cousins as well, but that's her story to tell. I was physically abused by my aunt, which put a lot of work into getting through that trauma and have fully forgiven her. We get along now. She and my uncle are also very much supportive of saving my marriage. That's awesome. During my childhood in this house, I struggled finding my place in the world. Was a cutter and just awkward. During part of the later years in this house, my grandparents got me into art classes as I enjoyed being artistic. They played a key role in that side of me. Now, due to the constant abuse growing up, I've also learned from my dad to work for the things I want. This is a very weird sentence. I want to go back to the cutting thing. I have to adjust my body real quick, though. Hang on. I want to go back to the cutting thing. The cutter thing is one of those things that's not normally an acceptable thing for men. That is something that you mainly see in women. Young women, teenagers, and it's always enough that it can be used to gain attention, or it is a cry for help. People who do it and like actually hide it is a whole different conversation. But I understand the cutting aspect because though cutting is not something that I would have ever done, getting tattooed was, and that's why I'm covered the way that I am because I started tattooing myself when I was very, very young. So I get the self-harm aspect from that. Going back to the email. So I got a job cutting Christmas trees down for the seasonal shops with my friend's family company. Picture me, my best friend at the time, 13 years old, with chainsaws. Times were wild. My cousin and I actually cleared out over 20 acres of land over summer vacations with an old beat up Ford pickup truck and whatever we could use. Times were very different. They are very, very different. The following year, I had told my dad I was interested in learning about Jesus and the Bible, so we went to church, and I found a youth center that I enjoyed. Some of my favorite memories of my dad and friends are from these times. Now, I'm curious, did your dad go with you to church? Was this something he was into, or was this a bonding experience for the two of you? Because that would have been pretty dope. Now, at the beginning of junior year, I voiced I wanted to join the Marines, and then that started the process of joining the military after school. Towards the end of my junior year, I was walking home from school with my group of friends. Crossing the street, I got hit by a fellow student who completely blew a stop sign and ran. My friend to this day swears I nailed the Superman pose perfectly when I went over the car. I broke both tibia and fibula right above the ankle. When it all happened, I remember running across the street. Then I remember lying down. I tried to stand up and just couldn't go right back. I tried to stand up just to go right back down from the break. Luckily, my dad was close by, so he and my best friend helped me into his truck and drove me to the hospital. The whole way I'm laughing like I'm the next Joker. I didn't feel it until the doctor grabbed my foot and started moving it, asking if I could feel that. My response was, "Will you feel it if I punch you in the throat?" The throat punch was a staple saying in my family, so I spent the majority of my summer in a cast. All while the Marine recruiters came to the house to get the testing in and go over the process of how everything will work come graduation. I ended up testing at a 95, high enough that I basically had a free choice of where I wanted to be placed in the Marines. I was due to join the sniper side, always been a great shot, younger age, living in the boonies and shooting targets for fun. 2 weeks after the test results from the recruiter were given to me, I had a follow-up appointment at the doctor's, took the x-ray to check progress of the healing, to see the break shifted because of the angle of the break. So it was decided surgery and an implant were needed. Once Marine recruitment found out, they notified me it's an instant disqualification because of a foreign implant. One thing that does still kind of bother me is the girl that blew the stop sign did a hit and run, turned herself in months later because a witness finally stepped forward, but all the damage was done and my parents were told to go for compensation, but never did. Man, life's going to happen sometimes. And in the grand scheme of things, yes, this may have pulled you away from the Marines. That could have saved your life, depending on how old you are, depending on what's going on in the world conflict and where you might have been stationed. Could have done a whole lot of shit to the girl. But the bigger reality is you're now, as you said, about to be 39. We're about to get into all of this, but your life may look very different because of that accident. You never know. And that was what I'm getting at. You wrote, and here I am, I'm about to be 39 with the knee of a 90-year-old because of the botched surgery. In my opinion, but then again, I'm not a doctor, just a blue-collar worker who likes to weld. They went through my kneecap instead of removing it to insert the rod into my tibia. Senior year, I chose to go to VOTb for desktop publishing. Wow, I can't read. Senior year, I chose to go to VOTb for desktop publishing. I enjoyed it, but I graduated with mediocre scores. And then at 17, after graduation, I moved out. Had the young and stupid high school relationship for a couple years. The last year of that relationship was basically me saying we were dating but lived apart and rarely spoke. During the last year and a half of that relationship, I tried my hand with college. I went for graphic design, but only did a semester and a half because I ended up relocating and lost my vehicle due to motor failure that I couldn't afford. I was young and didn't have much experience with vehicles. By the end of that year, I met my ex-wife. Graphic design is one of the worst things that you can go to school for. I mean, next to like a liberal arts degree or whatever bullshit degree that you can get. But like for actual work, to get a graphic design degree, that is such a saturated field. The amount of tattoo artists that I know that went to school, spent all the money, became Adobe certified, get the graphic design shit that don't fucking use it because there's more money in tattooing than in graphic design. It's wild. At the time, I was 20 or 21. I started to work at a local Staples store, moving up to a department lead. Soon after I was promoted to lead, I met my ex-wife. All during the last months of high school, relationships coming to an end. I admit it was wrong being in the relationship and starting a new one, but at the time, I was young and I didn't care. So then she comes along, applies and gets hired and put in my department. Shortly after her working there, we ended up dating. After a couple months of dating, one weekend we were together, I got woken up by a call from the store manager that dating coworkers is not accepted. So they gave me the choice to resign or I have to fire her due to it being my department. Well, needless to say, I fired her. Young guy in power. I'm going to flex my muscles. During our marriage, we always cracked jokes about me firing her and she still married me. I won't go into all of the details of that marriage. It was toxic, kind of. It was toxic, a toxic kind of one. We constantly did things to get back at each other and a lot of eye for an eye happening. I did, however, get 3 beautiful children from that marriage. I actually want to touch on this whole dating at work thing. We know that most infidelity happens in the workplace. When you graduate high school, if you don't go to college, the main place that you meet new people is going to be in your work field. Whether you work at a fucking, a mechanic shop or you work at Starbucks or Target or wherever it is that you work, you are going to get your most people interaction while you are at work. And if you work somewhere where you have a co-ed style workforce, that's where you're going to meet the most amount of people. And this whole, you are technically ahead of her. And like, there's a whole stigma about, you shouldn't date below you in the workforce. It's unprofessional and all of that bullshit. But when it comes down to it, your work life and your personal life aren't the same thing. You spend 1/3 of your life working. So the other 2/3 are spent doing other life shit. You shouldn't be giving up the things that could potentially bring you joy simply because of a job. In this situation, you had to fire your ex-wife. I mean, it is what it is. It's not like you guys were working anywhere amazing. What did you say? You were at Target? You didn't. You didn't say where. You just said, a local Staples store. You said Staples, so it wasn't even Target. Like, it's Staples, bro. This is one of those things that, are you really going to give up the potential love of your life? Which obviously she wasn't. You guys didn't make it. You did get 3 kids out of it. And you had a really fucked up relationship, but are you really going to give up your life for a job at Staples? That's not a career. It's a job. Now, if you were general management and you were able to like work the corporate side of things, that'd be a very different concept. But just working somewhere like that, like you're a worker, these people can replace you in no time because it doesn't take a lot of skill to do these jobs. Just a thought for you guys out there. Where was it? All right. Back to the email. Shortly after that, I put in my 2 weeks notice and took a step in the labor industry. Her stepfather got me in at his job installing elevators. Loved that job. Worked it for 2 years until a disagreement with one of the owner's sons got me fired. During that job, she and I got married and also welcomed our first daughter into the world. Also bought our first home, a Park model single wide. After I was let go from that job, I joined the truck body manufacturing industry, which I'm still in that type of industry today. 2 years with one company, early 20s, making $20 an hour. I felt like a king. Had all the bills paid plus extra for us to enjoy. So at 20 years old, if you're 39, you would have been, minimum wage at that point was like $6 an hour. So yeah, making $20 an hour at that point is huge. Yeah, it's a big deal. Had all the bills paid plus extra for us to enjoy. Well, more of my ex-wife could enjoy. Also at this time, I started the process of learning to tattoo. An uncle tattooed down in Maryland, so he took me in as I could. Now I really only either tattoo myself mostly at tough times in my life. My own kind of therapy. That's what I was touching on earlier with the cutting. It's also actually how I learned to tattoo. Or my family, because they want art. They want artwork of mine. Medical grade green soap to this day is still one of my favorite smells. Now at the end of that 2 years, the company downsized and sold the plant. I'm curious if you're actually tattooing, because you said you're still in that industry. So you're not a tattoo artist. You're tattooing out of your house. Which I'm going to say this, and I don't mean to be an asshole to you, but stop doing that. If you are not familiar with cross-contamination and bloodborne pathogens and all of the clean side of how to tattoo, you shouldn't be tattooing. This is somebody who also learned tattooing out of their house. I was a scratcher for a long time. I fucking own that shit. But that's exactly what you are if you're not good enough to work in a studio. And if you are good enough to work in a studio, you'd make a whole lot more money than you would work in an assembly line. Back to the email. Now, at the end of that 2 years, the company downsized and sold the plant, leaving me with no job after. So a good friend to this day, I still call him Pappy, taught me how to weld. I took that and got another job, but during the 3-month period of trying to find a job that would allow us to afford the house and life, we lost the house. That's when I started 2 years at a company repairing the refrigerated trailers and working a part-time at another plant manufacturing the smaller trailer box trucks, smaller 25-foot box trucks. Towards the end of that time frame, I had gotten severely sick and nearly died in the hospital hallway, no less. We thought it was from heavy drinking at a party we were at that weekend. First night trying legit absinthe. My Irish side came out and it got in my head I can drink half the bottle. They don't lie. That stuff will have you howling and hallucinating. Apparently, I laid face down on the bed, waving and laughing. Here we find out I had a golf ball sized mass on my appendix. Several months of testing and all my main job let me go. Why didn't they just remove your appendix? I was young enough, I didn't fully realize they couldn't actually do that, being it was medical issues, but it was also a blessing. During the weeks of multiple testing, I also had about 5 interviews with a company that was one of my longest friends worked at. Finally secured that job, and I was off for the races when I could finally start that. The week before I scheduled for a surgery to have the mass removed, they do a CAT scan to make the plan and all. After a day of not knowing what's going on, they call me in to break the news that there is no surgery needed. Somehow, after the constant monitoring that it doesn't grow or shift, it disappeared. That was my miracle, and I stand by that. I actually had my appendix rupture while I was on the bed and like at the hospital, like it ruptured as they were getting ready to do the surgery to remove it. That shit is one of the easiest surgeries ever now with the laparoscopic or whatever the fuck they call it. They make the 4 little incisions and go in and remove it. I went to a tattoo convention the next day and worked. Anyways, back to the first marriage, not long, maybe a month or 2 after the miracle. And by work, I don't mean like I was tattooing. I worked because we sponsored the tattoo convention and like I ran my guys and did the work thing. I wasn't tattooing, just to be clear. My ex-wife comes to me and says when she was at her friend's for the weekend, her friend's boyfriends raped her and she is pregnant and unsure if the child is mine or his. I don't believe that. I think that she fucked the dude, got pregnant, and is now using that excuse. Because if maybe this is just my logic, but if my woman was somewhere and somebody raped her, she would fucking tell me that it happened. Like, that's not something you hide from your person. I don't know, maybe it is. I would, in that situation, would not fucking hide that. I don't know. What do I know? Now, I put that into quotes because at no time during any playtime or intimacy did she react. If she was, there you go. And we were rough at times during. Well, when it was earliest possible, they did a paternity at our request. Results state I am the father. We made it through the pregnancy, scraping by, more of the eye for an eye going on. Now we're getting towards the end of the marriage, 6 months to the day after each birth of my youngest 2. My ex-wife left me for someone else. And it's because she was probably cheating on you the entire time. I was very much that man that worked 2 full-time jobs, ran on almost 4 hours of sleep, and the time I was home, all I was focused on was the kids. However, during the 3 years of doing this, maybe the 3 years of doing this, I abused Adderall and had a couple of times I had overdosed from caffeine pills. Didn't know there was such a thing as an OD from that, but I learned, yeah, dude, you can fucking overdose on water. The first time she left, I was left with our 2 kids. She had waited until I and the babies were asleep, packed all of our clothing in our 2006 Monte Carlo, and started driving to Virginia Beach to be with this girl we met a month prior at a concert. A necessary vacation, as my parents put it. During this time, my depression hit hard and I nearly drank myself to death. A few months later, she wanted to get back together. The relationship with the woman she pursued didn't work out. I forgave, didn't forget, so I went back and being extremely guarded. Now, thinking about it, I didn't commit to the marriage, just stayed because I was doing what I thought my dad and the Bible, that those vows were sacred and divorce is not an option. At the time, shortly before she left, she pushed me to go for it, and finally, after years of saying I wanted one, got my motorcycle, passed the class to be legal rider within the month. Then about a month later, after she left as well, a bunch of my close friends noticed me riding and asked me if I wanted to ride with them. 1, because that club was started in memory of a lost friend, and 2, they saw me heading down a dark path after my ex-wife left. That's crazy that it took you a month or whatever it was to get your endorsement. In Florida, it's a 2-day course. Well, it's 3. It's 1 day of book work, a half a day of book work, and a half a day on the course, then some more course time, and then the writing test. Super easy here to get your endorsements. $250. Anyways, so I joined the club, and at the time it was a family-friendly one. However, pretty fast the club started growing and has offered to be a support club to me. And at the time, being one of the first 13 members, it was an honor to get the recognition and offer. We had our last daughter 8 months later. During that pregnancy period is when the club started to make the move and become a support club. And I easily fit into that type of life. Always been a scrapper growing up. Dad raised me to hold my own, taught me to fight at a young age, and always said you had better never start a fight, but you better finish it. I hate that phrase. I fucking hate that so much. If you feel like your body is in danger from another human being, that's enough to fucking hit somebody. And I know that like you're not supposed to throw the first punch for legal purposes, but normally the first punch that lands wins a fist fight, especially if you're good at it. I'm not going to ever allow somebody to get into a position where I feel threatened and not fucking throw down. I'm going to be the aggressor in that because I would rather fucking come out alive than dead. And that's the reality of it. And by the time that this comes out, I know most of you have seen what happened with that dude, the wrestler, and Rampage Jackson's son in the box in the the WWF ring, those 20 blows put that dude, like, hospitalized him. It doesn't take much, especially bare knuckle from somebody who knows how to properly throw a punch. Yeah, fuck that. I'm not going to get myself put into a coma for some dumb shit. During this period, I was also trying counseling to better myself and trying to get a handle on the depression. We also tried marriage counseling, which didn't work. My ex-wife wasn't making suggested changes, so we were merely coexisting after. When our daughter was born, I left the club because I was not willing to dedicate all of my time to that over my kids. At this time, my ex-wife started running her mouth and nearly got a target put on my back. The end of that marriage was shortly after. That 6 months to the day again. I always asked her if she thinks it could have been postpartum, but she would never admit it. By the time I asked her this, along with doing counseling and all the thinking I was doing, she asked to fix things. She had already started a new relationship. This chick is fucking a mess, dude. Like, this is not somebody that you should be talking to in this capacity. So backing that up, I was doing as she asked to fix things. She had already started a new relationship. I misread that. With someone who I now have become friends with. During the first couple of weeks, she refused to leave, being co-signed on the lease. So we tried the roommate route, and I tried to tolerate living with her and the co-parent responsibilities. But after that first week, it was very apparent she wasn't going to hold up her end. Of course not. When you guys end a relationship, you need to end the relationship. Sever ties, move out, and fucking get a clean slate. This never works. This is always a messy thing. There's always feelings that get hurt. There's fighting. And because you're not together anymore and you're not trying to make things work, the side that you show your kids when you're fighting with your ex, that ain't the move. I had to constantly cancel plans to hang out with friends during her scheduled time or wake up to feed the baby while she stood outside on the phone with her new boyfriend. The very last time that we finally pushed the button after coming home working a shift and a half, normally night shift, but that day was partial day, so normal shift at night. I had just fallen asleep, and within the hour, the baby woke up crying to be fed. Thinking nothing of it, I rolled over to try to sleep. She was in her nursery next to our room. After about 15 minutes of what turned into wailing, I got up, made the bottle, and put her back to sleep, all while noticing that my ex-wife was nowhere to be found. Go out to the back door to find her at the end of the property, smoking and talking to the boyfriend. This set the bomb off. I started to yell bad and loud enough he could hear through the phone for him to come get his tramp out of my house. This would have been the only time I ever degraded a female, besides now just referring to her as Antichrist. That's the nickname Kenny always had for her, because a sermon he had listened to about the Antichrist and how to deal righteously with that. All the points of the Antichrist describe what she was doing to the T. About 6 months after kicking her out of the house, I started working on myself, started taking steps to quit drinking. Alcoholism ran through my dad's side of the family, and I wanted to break that generational curse. Started to get back to my old self. Once I started feeling comfortable in my own skin, I wanted a companion in life. I'm not very socially outgoing. Side note, people think that's funny since I'm part of a motorcycle ministry now and will openly share my testimony. A couple friends that had gotten married suggested a dating app that they had tried. I tried after a little hesitation, heard horror stories, and boy, are there some crazy ones out there. Ladies, if you're listening, it's not only the guys on there looking for other things besides meaningful relationships. First few dates I went on, they expected they could move in or have me pay for everything after the first date. The last date prior to meeting my wife, we talked and tried dating for a couple months, but it was apparent she was embarrassed to be seen with me as I'm this skinny tattooed biker, but with shorter hair back then. And her parents didn't entirely approve of her dating outside of their culture. The day before just getting off the app, I met my wife, just happened to catch her profile picture, her making this silly face, which our first anniversary together. She got me those boxers with the face all over them. Okay, it was a very hard thing for my brain to comprehend. That face showed her personality. We talked about 2.5 months before finally going on a date. I love that. Man, that instant, extremely deep connection that exploded, we both say we have never felt. That's because you took your fucking time. Compatibility matters, guys. I know that I pushed my book pretty hard the last couple of days because I've been reading it and I've been putting it all over social media. This is what I'm talking about. You take the time to work through and slow the fuck down. You don't need to be in a relationship. You don't. You think you do. You think you're lonely. You're not. You're bored. Find the right person. Find somebody that's compatible, like truly compatible, and start building something and take your time. At this time, my ex-wife divorce finalized, decided to blindside me. Also, I realize now my fault as well. Hindsight with court papers from domestics and then days later custody. PA is in a father-friendly state. It took several character witnesses and proof on paper that I'm the only parent with a stable job. At the time, been a welder for maybe 6 years in stable housing just to get custody and be declared 50-50, which I always agreed with. That's changing. I don't know if PA's changed, but that's changing. Most states start off at 50-50 and you have to prove someone unfit now. What you went through, though, is normal because you have to be able to provide that you can take care of your children regardless. Even getting a divorce, there's financial affidavits that have to be filled out. It's a whole fucking mess. I thought it was fair that she be finally responsible for her time as mine. That's not the case. I pay $700 a month for support, even with 50-50 custody. So I'm now legally responsible for that after being left with all the household bills. Car nearly repossessed because I allowed my ex-wife to pay the bills while I work so much. My mistake on that one. Yep. It'd be like that. You having 50% of the kids or having a 50-50 schedule, I would probably hire a better lawyer and try to go back and get that child support cut. Her not being able to support the kids on her 50% time and needing your money means that she's not capable of taking care of the children on her own dime. I would bring that up and I would fight for your fucking kids. I started to work more overtime to save the car being taken, need the car for the kids, catch up bills that were behind, and to see about getting a lawyer, which at bottom level was a minimum of $5,000 just for a retainer. Well, once she caught wind I was working more, it took me to get even more support. She was very much that type that used the system to get her way. At this time, all faith in the system being fair flew out the window, and mentally I just gave up. A lot of men do. Accepted that this will be my life until the kids are of age. All during this, my wife helped me mentally get through it. I would so go back to court, dude. After about 7 months of formally dating, she asked if I would move in with her, as she loves having me around, and at the time, her youngest son on Spectrum actually enjoyed my company, which to her was a big deal. We lived in her house that she and the previous ex of 6 years purchased together. Now her, I, and the ex have a great friendship. They were legit only friends through majority of the relationship. Well, after a few months of living there, she gotten a foreclosure notice that they are filing. I guess she hasn't gotten behind and we couldn't get it caught up. I guess she had gotten behind. There's typos in here, guys. So I made much needed repairs to the house for her to sell. She got over asking price. We still miss that house. But then she and her kids were left with not having a place. So I sold my house. I rented. My parents took over the lease, is where I ended up moving back for about 3 months until we found a place. During this time, every other week, we were the Brady Bunch. My wife and I and the 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy, and her 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. Mind you, once we all were together, I went from raising toddlers and a 9-year-old to now learning teenage issues. You don't learn those either ways. No gradual step in, and boy, was that tough. 3 months go by, I ended up having a major falling out with my parents, and as soon as we got approved for this house, we moved into this beautiful house in an old village that used to be the community of dam builders and workers. Corner lot, woods everywhere. It was paradise to us. During this time, my middle stepson had taken a bad turn in lifestyle, and it had caused a lot of fights. Kids will do that shit. This is why we tell people all the time you have to prioritize your relationship over your kids. Because if you guys can't be on the same page, your kids aren't going to get the best side of you. And like, I understand that that's her kid because you said stepson, but like, people need to realize that the step parent in these situations have to choose to be there every single day. We are choosing to be there to raise these children, to do these things. And if you're fighting us while trying to deal with the kid situation, like, it's going to get to a point where people don't want to stay in situations like that. You got to prioritize the marriage and then deal with the children. Back to the email. 1.5 years into dealing with that stress, he was on the verge of being taken to a detention center for all of his choices. But the week that was due to happen was when the world shut down. Now, one of the hardest parts of the story, the Christmas of 2019, ex-wife extremely spiteful because the kids were getting really close to my wife, started making things a living hell. It was my Christmas to have the kids for Christmas morning, and with my new house we lived in, we were excited. See, this is why you need to go back to court, dude. You need to get everything fucking documented, because if you have a mediation and everything is legally listed. Like, we have specific time frames when we're allowed to call the kids when they're at their dad's, and the same thing when he's allowed to call them here. We have holidays figured out. Like, all of that shit is in the court documents, and there's no going back. And in a situation like this where she tried to take the kids, you could say, no, it's my weekend. And you could call the cops, bring your fucking paperwork and be like, it's my weekend. I have the kids for Christmas Eve or whatever the day was. It's in this court document. The cops are going to be like, technically you have to let them go so you're not kidnapping, even though it's a civil thing, but then you can take her back to court in a violation of the agreement, which could create a whole lot of other problems for her. 5 days before my scheduled day to get them, she withheld and completely ignored every attempt to contact. I tried getting the cops involved. They said they wouldn't help as it was the court issue on the first day. Wouldn't help. It was the court's issue on the first day. The second day I left work early to go to the courthouse, had to file, and they wouldn't expedite the contempt filing. So I had to wait until after the new year. After feeling like I was failed there and my kids were being kept from me, the last day of work before the holiday vacation driving home, I had full intent of committing suicide on the highway to the bridge I was going to drive off. That's insane. Here you are with a fucking great woman, a good marriage. You guys got like the Brady Bunch thing going on, and your biggest concern in life right now is, I don't want to deal with this shit anymore, so I'm going to drive off a bridge. Because your ex-wife is being fucking nasty and manipulative and is creating conflict in your life. And that's not me shitting on you, because I have also been in the mindset of it would just be easier to not be here. That's been the breaking point, right? That's where we're at, that point where we feel like I just don't want to fucking do this anymore. I'm tired. Admit, ladies, if you're watching this, when a man tells you he's tired, it's not that he needs a fucking nap. There's so much shit going on. You need to listen. You need to support. You need to probe. And if they're not willing to talk, you need to just fucking be there in silence and let them fucking exist for a little while. But we've been there, right? Like, it's kind of a cop-out when you really think about it. There have been times in my life where, I'm not going to get into that story. I get it. Where I'm at now, looking back on my life, had any of my attempts succeeded, I would have missed this entire season of my life. And I'm at the good parts now, right? Like, the next 20, 30 years of my life are going to be gangster as a motherfucker, and I know it. And I would have missed out on all of it. And the point of that is that it is tiring. It's exhausting. Things are not going to always go your way. Driving your car off of a bridge is not the answer to that shit. Getting mentorship, getting a community of people that's going to help you is the answer to that shit. Getting guidance from somebody who's been where you are currently at is the answer to that shit. So now the drive from home to work at that time was 35 miles one way. Money was great, so I didn't mind at the time. I clocked out and started the commute home. First 20 minutes of the drive, my wife tried calling. I declined all of the calls because my mind was set. Text of, I'm worried. I know you're hurt from not getting your kids, but me and the kids all still need you. Nothing she said got through. It was at the point I was within 1,000 yards from the bridge and my best friend mentor, Kenny, called. I picked up and was saved. That's it. That's the mentor. That's exactly what I was just talking about. His brother I met at a job. He worked in the service bay next to mine. It's funny, he was actually due to prospect under me in the club I was in, but when I left, he stopped hanging around them. He's about 18 years older than I am and lived the same thing I'm going through. Blended family, spiteful ex-wife, damn near the whole 9 yards, as they say. So he always gave me advice and steered me through. That's the importance of fucking mentorship, guys. For a big guy, he was sneaky. He always managed to sneak up behind me when I hit my hand with a hammer or things like that. All I hear is dumbass and then his laugh. Some of that part about him is relevant later in the story, but back to the story. He saved my life for the first time. When I got home, I held my wife crying and apologized. She said she wouldn't know what to do if she ever lost me. Then she said, I think you need to find something for you to enjoy and help give you purpose outside of the kids. I fucking agree with that. You guys who make your entire, and this is women, this is for you too. When you make your entire identity about being a parent, you are living a label. You're not living a life. You're not doing the things that fill your cup. You are living in servitude. It's not the same thing as living your life. And I feel like I honestly feel like because our communities of family have gotten so small, I think that that's more normal now than people realize. It used to be that we had aunts and uncles and grandparents and great grandparents and the aunt and uncle's great grandparents and like, you know, all of these people in our community that would raise children while we worked and hunted and did all of those things. And we don't have that anymore. So anyways, it's then I started to go to biker church with the motorcycle ministry that my friends had become part of. 333 Ministries, one of the best families a numbskull like myself could ask for. Now, for the next year and a half, I had become part of the ministry, did the hang around period, and prospected under Kenny, but wasn't allowed to be fully a part at this time, get my vest, or as we say, our cut. Due to living in sin unmarried, see, Triple Tree ran off of very biblical requirements, and that's what made it something I wanted to be a part of. We did have the date planned, but it was nearly a year away. Now comes the pandemic. My ex-wife always made everything with the kids difficult with seeing them during this time, but now I had the support that helped me tread that storm. One of the few things I consistently said to my ex-wife was, it's not just my relationship with the kids you're messing with doing this. It's also all the kids' relationships with each other. Well, we were due to get married early September of 2020, but no one was willing to do it. Damn pandemic. So we rescheduled for after September of 2021, fast forward to Easter of 2021. My wife and I were in a massive battle with each other, all around the issues of her son's choices and lack of respect for the house, and both her and I. Unknowing to me, during the hardest part of this fight, my wife cheated. I kind of always knew, gut feeling, but never said anything. Hate that. I hate that. I have a whole lot of things running through my head right now, so I apologize for the silence. But when your communication gets to the point that it's higher than average, things like that don't happen. I do understand that people can come in and sneak their way into people's lives and do all of that shit, but if there's needs not being fulfilled and there's true transparency, that shit will never happen. June of 2021, my brother and motorcycle ministries pastor and president baptized me in the river. I wanted the river because it's God's creation. I found my faith and wanted to be a new man. 4 months before the wedding, she admitted to it, crying, explaining it all, saying she didn't intend on it, but the guy full on fed on the conflict and took advantage. Of course he did. I just sat in silence, tears rolling down my face, and all I could say was I needed some time. It took a few weeks, but I told her I'm willing to forgive her and make things work. She allowed me to confront the guy the whole time. While he may have been slightly taller than me, he refused to look me in the eye and still to this day denies it happened. September came along and we had our wedding. We had our wedding we wanted. The wedding we wanted is, I think maybe I should have read. 100 of our closest friends and family, rented AmVets. I rode the bike to the wedding, parked it on the front door. Guests were a mix of bikers, kids, friends, and family. We loved it. Had the wedding and reception all in one. One couple we are really close with handled the DJ stuff. Rev was who married us. Kenny was my best man. His short speech in our wedding video will always make me break down. We chose to have our honeymoon at Bike Week in Ocean City, Maryland. Me, her, and our 2 dogs, one of the best weeks of our lives. Fucking love that. Now, the weekend after the honeymoon was the weekend with the kids. Custody got forced to every other weekend because she constantly used the system. That explains why you're paying $700 a month. Every time I worked more to get that money to secure legal help, she took and got awarded more. But my time with my kids was all about them. One of the last calls with domestics to get it adjusted accordingly. She started making more than the earning ratio shifted from 60-40 to 57-43. I bring that up because she works more now and is getting paid more than she was originally set on, but I was also getting paid slightly more, and pointed out I was notified by the guy she left me for. She had also had an OnlyFans. She snuck to the courthouse while I was on my honeymoon, so I got in thinking I'll get a bit of an adjustment. To only get the news they want to raise your support another $200, and also told the extra $300 to $400 a month she made from OnlyFans does not count. So I made a statement that I had earned that without notifying the domestic office that I would be penalized for it. My wife finally experienced the other side of the coin with domestics that day. I've made the statement to them that this kind of crap is why good fathers either end up vanishing or commit suicide. And to my surprise, my ex-wife agreed to leave the payment as is. About the only nice thing she's done that didn't entirely have a hidden agenda. March of 2022 comes, and the motorcycle ministry I am now involved with patches me in. I found my home, my village of people, one of the best choices I had made and that my wife pushed me to do. Now, months before this ministry was gifted their diamond patch because of what we do spiritually and all for them. Between my wife and the family and the ministry, I could navigate life and all unknown a little easier. March of 2023, my best friend, brother, mentor Kenny suffers a stroke. That first year that I was in the ministry, I grew so much. We very much ran similar to club protocols and everything, except in the ministry, our wives are equal members. I loved it. Kenny was sergeant at arms to Rev, our president and pastor, also my best friend. And I was Kenny's right hand. He taught me all the right things spiritually. The first couple of weeks after he suffered the stroke, I imploded to say, and probably say the least. And during this time, my wife and I were having some sort of argument that I honestly can't remember what about. She had yelled that the remark, "You're only acting out because your best friend is dying." Hard thing to hear, so I punched the dashboard and told her to stop the car. I proceeded to walk 7 miles home. By April, he was finally at rest. Hardest days of my life. Your wife was right, though. The bigger issue here is, why weren't you leaning on her with all of this? Why were you choosing to make an enemy of her in the moment? This is what companionship and what being in a union looks like. You guys are supposed to lean on each other in hard times, not go to war with each other. To this day, I still have moments I struggle with that loss. He was a massive impact on the man I am now. His memorial service, I stood at the front on guard of his bike, earn and vest, stood stone still for what felt like days with only tears going down my cheek. After his passing, half of our ministry members left. About half of them wanted power, so moved to actual clubs. Others left just for personal reasons. The half that left for power I no longer associate with because their true colors showed. They have become what turned me away from the faith before. Within the next few months, I started growing more spiritually, and I was promoted to sergeant at arms. I share some of the story with everyone that wants to listen, mainly the lifestyle change, going from outlaw mindset to godly mindset, and my attempt and being saved from that. My story reaches some of the outlaw members, and they look at me with high respect and loyalty, always checking on each other and everything. The proof of even the smallest bit of my story reaches those who need it, and my light shines enough to plant that seed with others as well. Now, the next 3 years to the present day are tough. We faced being homeless due to the company that bought the historic rental community we lived in, deciding our house was one out of 23 total houses that are being turned into Airbnbs. We had put work in to build enough credit to buy. At that point, 4 years of hard work for me to build my credit. My ex-wife helped drive down with repos. 4 years of working hard to pay off debts, provide for my family, and pay support. Finally got approved for a house. Fuck yeah. Only to get drug along for months. Fuck that. Already on the second and final extension of staying at the house we were renting, I finally had enough, so I withdrew the offer, fired the realtor we had. He just wasn't taking the job and situation seriously, just saying, well, you are on your last extension. May want to settle on rentals. No, sir. Good riddance. Good for you. We went to an open house ourselves. Went to our open house to ourselves due to said realtor not doing his job right, and we met an old friend of my wife. He was part of the realtor company handling the sale. The property was the last place we put an offer in with the previous guy we used. Within a week, we took him on as a realtor, and damn, that guy was beyond that job. He didn't rest until we got things we wanted, finally settled on a house, and in 2 weeks we moved in. What a wild ride. All while I can feel Kenny looking down on me with a smile. Knowing that I never gave up. He was there at the beginning of that journey, 7 long months of uncertainty with housing, finally getting settled in a new house. Small house, but it's ours. Only downside was the one adjacent neighbor is the local crack house. So in our house, it could be only me, my wife, the youngest stepson, and the 2 older ones moved in with their prospective grandparents. One just to have her way paid, and the other to give his grandmother daily company after passing of his grandfather. And as for my 3 kids, prior to moving from the old house, my ex-wife claimed we were abusing them to CVS. State cops arrived, treated my wife like a criminal while I was at work. The claims were clearly unfounded, but the damage was done. My wife told me for us to make this marriage work, I would have to make sure my kids aren't around her and her kids due to ex-wife and her constant hell. I without hesitation agreed that I can just see them on my weekends at my parents', no question for me. I'm still doing what I can for my kids and staying to my commitment and vows. Now, the last year of the rental house, my relationship with my wife's two oldest was very strained, lifestyle choices and lack of respect towards me and set boundaries at the house. Now, after 3 years of living in our house and her two living with their grandparents, my relationship with her oldest daughter is still semi-strained due to the addictions. Her middle son, on the other hand, still doing what he knows is wrong with the law, has grown massively, is working on getting away from that, joined a church, and me and him share amazing relationships now. That's my bud. I call all my boys that. A little over a year and a half after we bought our house, I started to become very unhappy at my job, basically doing a lead level job at the same pay as those who barely been there for a year. Our guys, nearly 10 years younger, and I'm working circles around them, and they start bitching I'm being a dick. Very unhappy with driving 65 miles a day, a total of 2 hours added to the 11 hours a day I work there. Away from home, 13 hours, leaving me little time to be home and do my honey-do list and get quality time in. Start looking for a new job, had an interview at 2 places, but financially they wouldn't mount to what I was bringing home then, even with the commute being cut in half. My work heard I was looking elsewhere and gave me a raise, but the raise still didn't fix the other things. Maybe you should look into why they think you're bitching and being a dick and focus on doing your job and not worry about what other people are doing. If you are actually in a lead position, because I think that you worded that as basically doing a lead level job, which means you weren't doing the lead level job. Now, if they're paying you for that, it's a different conversation. But getting a raise doesn't matter if you don't get the title, because if without the title, just getting the raise, they can still complain that you're bitching. A couple months later, my wife tells me she was talking to a company about her cleaning company services, about me needing a job. A week later, I went in for an interview and a welding test. A day later, I get the call. They want to offer me the job, $1.50 more an hour plus commute drops from 65 miles a day to 22. I took that step of uncertainty and left the job of 10 years to level up. Now we're getting close to present day, even making more money, and we still struggled. Financially, my wife wasn't willing to fully let go of certain things. Started to feel like we weren't the team we were supposed to be, and I was just a check. Oh no. We started having fights. One fight back in November 24 that was really bad. I started shutting in and giving up. She made me call Rev at 10:30 at night, and me and him are sitting in his truck at an all-night diner talking. He suggested maybe try marriage counseling with him and his wife. They are counselors through the churches already. That was something my wife had said about trying before, but I always pushed back due to reverting back to when marriage counseling didn't save previous marriage. I'm going to touch on that. I've just been reading. There's not a whole lot here for me to touch on because the story is coherent, but the marriage counseling thing, couples counseling, marriage counseling, therapy, however you want to look at that, it's not one size fits all. You don't know if the marriage counselor has a good marriage or even a good relationship. You don't know if your core values align with theirs. There's a whole lot of unknown that goes into all of that, which means you have to shop for a therapist that is right for you or a counselor that is right for you the same way that you have to do anything else. If this dude is a fucking counselor at his church and he's somebody that you are like super close to, you know your values are there. And you know that you are going to get like solid information from him if they're good at what they do. So I really hope that you actually take it. Now it took several months to finally get it going because with my wife's work, her schedule is not always the same. So I put it on her to schedule the time because my work schedule was the same every day. So it takes several months and a bad fight to have me call Rev in tears. Yeah, I'm an emotional person and I'm not sorry for that. Good, dude. Fucking why would you be? Fucking good for you, man. Me being able to cry after our first ayahuasca ceremony has been one of the most freeing experiences of my life. I cry over all kinds of shit now. It's not like, bubbling, sobbing, snot bubbling, the whole nine, but like I feel my emotions now and it's fucking wonderful. It's good for you. Then I had enough of the youngest stepson who started barely going to school, barely working, doing nothing to contribute to stuff around the house, chores or not. And then added more to the electric bill with adding multiple fish tanks. How old is this kid? Because if he's over 18, you need to kick him the fuck out of your house. I had an attitude after having enough, and my wife instantly wiped any idea of the actual work I have done to change to be better and went, "You'll never change." Once this happened, we stopped wanting to go to counseling 41 days after starting counseling. Then a week or so after a minor fight happened, another one. Now this fight had gotten to the point of explosion. One day I went looking for the scissors to find it in my stepson's room. I then noticed a mini fridge, so I open it and see that it's filled with beer. That was the final straw. I just went off. I'm not allowing an 18-year-old child to drink in the house. He's 18. He's a man now. According to society, he's a fucking adult. You guys need to fix your marriage, save your marriage, and kick him the fuck out of your house. While both my wife and I don't drink and not allowing it where he does, absolutely nothing around the house. The next day, my wife and I sat so she could try to talk about it, but the second it left her lips that his friend's mom allows his friends to have one, I lost it. I don't care what they allowed. She is also divorced and her son barely wants to live there anyways. Well, because I wouldn't listen to what she was going to say, we ended up in a very bad fight. That led her to opening the front door and saying she is done and needs to go. I told her for once to be their mother and not their friend. Good for you. God, I wish you guys weren't fighting, but you guys don't need to be your children's friends. You're supposed to be an example to them. You're supposed to be the thing that gives them guidance and structure in their life. And this kid fucking needs some. I was left thinking my marriage was over after a fight over alcohol, which neither of us drink. So at that, I had the biggest slip in my life and punched a wall. The following morning, I got up to work, started the bike, headed to work. What is now a normal 20-minute drive turned into 9. Clocked in, started the work, climbed into a tank to repair some cracks and lost it. I came to realize I had no regard for my life. That ride had nearly ended it all again. I started to replay the ride to work and realized I was just about to not take the turn at a fork and ride right into the tree at the fork at 70 miles an hour. I clearly remember hearing my best friend Kenny's voice saying, "Dumbass, he saved me again." I reached out to my dad and Rev, both supported me in getting help so that I left work and right to sign myself in. Now I spent a week getting mine right, have a med added to help while I get everything sorted. So the day before I got discharged, my wife come to visit and we talked. I had said my stepson doesn't have to move, but he needs to start holding his end of responsibility. And also there will be absolutely no beer in the house. Following day, I get out and he's moving. The following 2 weeks we had minor fights over finances. Me telling my wife I will need help to cover things because the week I was in a hospital is a week of pay I missed on. Dude, I'm fucking glad this kid is moving out. Instead, I met with constant jabs of her son being forced out and completely ignoring my ask for help. That's fucked up. I told her if she isn't willing to be on the team, then I will only pay the mortgage and she can pay the rest, all fueled by being beyond pissed. I've been saying we're going to be struggling this month and she spends roughly $400 total on her 18-year-old son. This fight eventually led to being separated, which was last weekend. This is you guys not putting yourselves and your marriage above your children. I don't understand how we are in a position where this is even a thing anymore. I know that it's fucking hard for young people right now financially. And like, to give you an idea of how hard it is and how much I understand this, we were looking at houses today because we don't want to be in Florida. And I found a place in Texas that was very in my price range, very like massive amounts of land. Like it was more than three times what we currently have. That house that I was looking at sold at one point for $284,000. And it was $700,000 today. When it sold was 2009. So it's fucking hard for younger people. I get it. The rent's gone up. Like everything is more expensive. The dollar has been devalued so much because of our debt. I fucking get it. The reality is once your children are 18 years old and they're going to be living in your house, they should be paying rent and living by your rules. And if they can't fucking agree to do those things, then they need to move the fuck out and be roommates with somebody who they can disrespect and do all that shit to. Because at the end of the day, your marriage should be the thing that is like forever, right? This is going to be you doing the forever thing for the rest of your life, growing old together and having all that shit. I have to check my phone. Now, we are currently in this dance of figuring out how it goes. I at least told her I finally realized my mood swings being out of control were the problem, and I started to take the steps to fix that. Meds and counseling, I still struggle with getting stuck in my head, but now Rev kindly at random times texts me, dumbass, as Kenny would say. But even when I'm still making my mistakes trying to save my marriage, I'm still owning up to them and doing what I have to do. So good for you for owning your parts in all of this, but there's a whole lot of shit that's going on in your home that needs to get correct. Now we are sitting at present day. I'm finishing this all after arriving at my grandma's in Maryland, talking with everyone and getting this story written. Rev and his wife are mediating communications with my wife and I to prevent any fighting, and I'm doing counseling and everything to get myself straight so I can truly be the man I want to be. Here's to seeing what the future holds. Guys, remember, even when you hit rock bottom of the pit, you can only go up. Start building. Life is truly worth the fight. Hopefully all this is understandable. Every time I get one part down, it sparked another thought. So it was constantly trying to see where it was to get chronologically. Thanks for the chance. And to Chris, thanks for your challenge to step out of my comfort zone to write it. Dude, I hope that this gave you some sort of, I hope that this is freeing for you, right? I hope that somewhere along the way, this gave you some sort of comfort and clarity. And I hope that you and your woman are getting your shit together. I definitely think that you guys need to have conversations about your vows, especially if she's also somebody with faith, because what you're doing right now, putting your children above your marriage, is, you're violating your vows. This is for better or worse, sickness and in health. This is one of those worst things, and she's not standing by you. You guys aren't doing what you need to be doing. And I understand that it's hard. I understand that she loves her child, but her child's 18 now. And like you just said in this email about being at rock bottom, he needs to hit rock bottom. He needs to realize that nobody's coming to save him. That as an adult, you have to go out there and fucking grind and do shit for yourself. You shouldn't be supporting children over 18. Real shit, unless your kid is going to college and you're funding that life for them, you shouldn't be paying for them anymore. And when our kids turn 18 years old, if they want cell phones and they want all that shit, they're paying for all of it. They want cars. Like, I'll probably buy them their first little beater car so they have something, but they're paying their own insurance. Like, they will be working. I'm not fucking, this isn't a handout thing. You're going to earn your fucking way in life. That's just the way that it needs to be. We live in a world where there is now a term called stay-at-home kids. And these are grown-ass kids who are in their 20s and 30s that are living off their parents. And the parents think it's fucking cute and refer to them as stay-at-home kids. You don't have stay-at-home kids. You have fucking poor parenting techniques, and your children are fucking useless because of it. Drives me nuts. That's the email, guys. I know I haven't done one of these in a while. Hopefully you got some sort of value out of this. I will probably do another one of these in a week or two. I'm going to try to get back to doing them because I was asked to do them. And I guess that's that. We'll see you guys on the next one.